Hello, this is Allie Swafford, President of Prosperity Partners Wealth Management. Today's topic is whatever it takes. Now, you may say, wait, is that our mandate? Is the Fed really willing to do whatever it takes to support the economy? Believe me, it will be enough. Did Jerome Powell really say that? Well, no, actually, it was European Central Bank President Mario Draghi, and he voiced that promise in 2012 when Spain and Italy careened towards a financial cliff. And he gave the speech in which he said, within our mandate, the ECB is ready to do whatever it takes to preserve the euro. And after a pause, he added firmly, believe me, it will be enough. Well, in some respects, whatever it takes became Draghi's legacy. No one remembers the rest of his speech, just the thought of unlimited central bank firepower, which encouraged investors to step in and help with the Spanish and Italian debt. The long story short, a financial crisis was avoided. Well, perhaps the Fed's rapid response has created the same confidence for American investors because despite the economy, markets are fairly robust. Let's take a deeper look. Well, the economy in some senses is in what you might call a free fall. Now, through April 25th, there was a 6-week period in which we had 30 million first-time claims for unemployment insurance. It's by far the worst number of layoffs we've ever seen, and of course, that's disheartening. In March, we found that a 7.5% decline occurred in consumer spending, and of course, that's the backbone of our economy. This was the biggest decline in record. And industrial production slid 5.4%. This is the worst industrial production number since the end of World War II. Sadly, we may see an acceleration in the economic contraction when April's data rolls in. Many standard economic statistics have yet to catch up with the reality we are experiencing, Powell said at the end of his April press conference. Manufacturing output fell sharply in March and is likely to drop more rapidly in April as many factories have temporarily closed. Put simply, a healthcare crisis has morphed into an economic crisis at lightning speed. Now, the severity of the downturn will depend on the policy actions taken at all levels of government to cushion the blow and support the recovery. This was another comment by Jerome Powell. But on the flip side, let's talk about April in the markets. This is the best monthly gain markets have had since 1987. One of the recurrent themes is that oftentimes bull markets occur during economic expansions and bear markets coincide with recessions. Expansions do outlast recessions, and expansions drive the economy to higher levels, and stocks follow. But one glaring exception over the last 50 years was 1987, which the crash didn't lead to economic contraction. But what we're seeing is the 4-week decline in the S&P, which qualifies as a bear market during COVID-19, saw a 34% implosion. But let's talk about the rally again in April. For the month of April, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 11.1%, which then said from January 1st through April 30th that the Dow was down 14.7%. That's quite a recovery when you look at what the Dow had done from January through March 31st, and then the recovery in April. Correspondingly, the NASDAQ was up 15.5%, and for the year through April was only down 0.9%. The S&P 500 was up 12.7% in April, which for the year left the S&P down 9.9%. So, how can we explain this seemingly disconnect? Well, the Fed's unlimited firepower has not been enough to prevent a debilitating economic decline, but its unprecedented steps have kept an economic crisis from morphing into another financial crisis with a massive amount of liquidity and a promise of more support aiding stocks. Furthermore, the government stimulus of over 2.5 trillion is helping sentiment. Talk of a vaccine or treatment is another factor. And I believe investors are looking to 2021 and that there's anticipation that corporate profits will turn around in 2021. Of course, the outlook is very uncertain. Have investors been too optimistic? Well, additional government spending and support may be needed to jumpstart economic activity, as Powell alluded to in his press conference. Deficit hawks may cringe at talk of new spending and new programs haven't been problem-free so far. Fiscal stimulus, though, has received strong bipartisan support. Meanwhile, the reopenings of large portions of the economy may or may not go as planned. Another wild card is going to be consumer behavior. Prior patterns are unlikely to return to pre-crisis behavior, at least right away. Social distancing at restaurants, airlines, and industries that require person-to-person interactions could limit activity and sales. Is there a bottom in sight? Market action suggests some type of a bottom is in sight. Think of it like this: the level and direction of stocks is the equivalent of the collective wisdom of millions of small and large investors. They are not simply opinions, but real people and institutions that buy and sell equities, effectively putting their money where their mouth is. No one has a crystal ball. No one can tell you where stocks might be at the end of this year. There are just too many unknown variables, and those who make forecasts are simply offering their opinions. I understand that uncertainty is facing all of us. We're grappling with an economic and healthcare crisis. It's something none of us have ever faced. However, we must remember that we need to stay invested. Investors who cash out often miss the market's best days. According to Putnam Investments, investors who remained invested over a 15-year period earned 9% returns, while investors who missed the 10 best market days only earned 4.13%. If you cash out, you lock in your losses. Investors, you need to keep your money in the market so that it can work for you. But we would recommend thinking of things in kind of our 3-bucket approach. Make sure that in your now bucket, you have plenty of emergency funds. Things that you know that will be coming up need to be accounted for in cash. Your soon bucket, or that money that we're trying to preserve, should have some element of return, but a very conservative return. And we can help you look at your soon money to make sure that while markets are as volatile and unpredictable as they are, that you have adequate cash flow for your living needs. But don't forget that later bucket. We want to make sure that we can be there as markets return, as they always have. We need to think about long term investing. So, again, it's our job to be here for you, and we want to be here for you every step of the way. If you or any of your friends or relatives have concerns or would just like to talk to us about, are my assets correctly positioned, please reach out. We are here for you. In the meantime, continue to stay safe, healthy, and please follow the guidelines that have been put out by our local community so that we can hopefully get to the other side of this pandemic